Sylvester. I'm a distinguished senior fellow here at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And on behalf of the foundation, I want to thank you all for coming to this first live show of Winners and Losers. Here at TPPF, as most of you know, our mission is to make good public policy for Texas and America and the world. And one of the ways that we do that is every Friday morning, we give everybody a little score to let them know how they're doing, working in collaboration with our partners at Talk 1370 on the Cardle and Woolley show. So you're here. You're going to see how our Friday morning Winners and Losers is actually made. Thanks again. I am turning it over now to Lynn Woolley, who always runs that show.
All right, I'll just say a couple of words and make this brief. I want to introduce to you my partner in the morning, Jim Cardle.
Thank you, sir.
His friends call him Jimmy.
My mother
I'm sorry, his mother calls him Jimmy. Jim and I are we kind of go at it a little bit every now and then, but we take ourselves very seriously. I'm sort of the Rocky the Flying Squirrel on the show, and he's Bullwinkle J. Moose. And that's kind of the way we work it. My background is in radio. I've done it all my life. I started in 1968 when I was in high school. It makes me 76 right now, and I'm still doing it. Jim's background is the swamp in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
All right, and with that,
fair enough.
Let's get started.
All right.
You will notice if you look in your program and you look at Jim's bio and my bio, and then Sherry's bio, which is an entire page. We will be talking about that later, Sherry.
She's a winner.
It's time for Winners and Losers on Talk 1370, and now we're going to bring on TPPF's distinguished senior fellow, Sherry Sylvester. Sherry, ladies always go first, so what have you got for us in Winners and Losers?
Great to be here, guys. I don't think we can do anything but start with the State of the Union. Trump, I think, comes out of this as a winner. I think we may have some critiques, but he's a winner, number one, for the discipline.
Amen.
He came in, he never, as far as we know, except in a few instances, went off script.
It's a minor miracle.
Minor miracle.
Yeah.
He talked about big wins, border, zero people crossing the border in the last 9 months. He talked about, in one way to summarize it, is what was good about America. He brought in the hockey team, which was totally brilliant.
It was.
Totally brilliant.
Yep.
And of course, we can talk more about what about the women's hockey players, but he did say that he had invited them as well. And I'm not sure that what went on in that locker room after the hockey game makes the winners list.
With Cash Patel, that was wonderful.
But one of the things that we tell people in politics, I've worked in politics a long, long time, is that it's important to show it, not say it. And Trump's about 65-35 on that. He did show it a lot. It would probably have been more effective if he just let the camera go in and show the Democrats weren't standing up rather than pointing that out. But I think we have to count him as a big winner, and I would put a Democrat on that winners list too, and that's John Fetterman.
Amen.
He showed up in a suit, and as far as we know, he's the only Democrat that shook hands with the president's, which is pretty criminal.
And stood a time or two.
And he stood a time or two.
Yeah.
Should I start with losers, or you guys want to do your big winners?
Well, since you obviously looked at my notes, I wrote down that Senator John Fetterman said on Fox, "Don't yell or scream at the State of the Union address." He did not stand, this is interesting, he did not stand when Trump set the trap for the Democrats. Would you say that your job in Congress is to protect Americans over illegal immigrants? And that was when the Democrats didn't stand. Fetterman didn't stand, but he stood for about 10 other things which he enumerated on Fox News, and we ran the audio this morning. So yes, John Fetterman is definitely a winner. Trump, I'm going to have to give him some credit here. I almost put him on the loser's side for this, I had him on the winner's side for what you had him on there for. But earlier in the week, when Trump said, and let me read the quote, "I am ashamed of certain members of the court." I wasn't thrilled with that. Honestly thought that they ruled in a constitutional manner. And the Constitution in my life, political life, trumps everything else.
You didn't have to do that.
He didn't have to do that, but at the State of the Union, he only said that the ruling was unfortunate. So I give him credit for not picking a fight with the Supreme Court.
And you know, one of the things I say all the time in politics, and certainly on winners and losers, is that the only relevant question is compared to what? And let's remember
Exactly.
in 2010 what Obama did to the court at the State of the Union after the Citizens United ruling. So the media tends to tell us that Obama was the guy who was always circumspect, but no, he went right after him.
Well, and the Democrats didn't like Roe v. Wade overturned either.
That's true. That's true.
Citizens United that has led us to the massive third-party funding that we're seeing right now.
Exactly.
Certainly in our state Senate race. I'm going to jump in and say one of the things I thought was really neat, how Trump used the initiated by Ronald Reagan idea of recognizing people, probably a record, we all know it was a record-long speech, but his recognition of the war heroes, whether it was down at Camp Mystic, 160 people, are you kidding me? How is that possible? Or the fellow down in Venezuela, the transitioned girl who had been counseled by her school without telling the parents. It was example after example after example, I thought. A lot of us will remember last year he did the same thing with a little fellow who was suffering from cancer and wanted to be a Secret Service agent, and had him into the Oval Office the next day and deputized him. I think that was very, very, very effective. And overall, Sherry, I'm going to agree with you. The discipline, I'm hoping it may be the beginning of what we're seeing the rest of the year. The frivolity and the insults, you and I talk about this all the time, have reached a level where we had the lesser of two evils when it was Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. Remember, people talked about it being the lesser of two evils. Right now, it's shaping up in a lot of things, whether you got the Democrat Party named AOC or Schumer or whoever at, in the teens for their approval rating, Donald Trump at 37, I'll take 37 anytime, but they're both low and the lesser of two evils, and that means that eventually I'm concerned that it's going to get in the American public's mind that they don't want to only engage but maybe vote, which we're monitoring and watching here with the Texas primary right now. So the idea that he could potentially have a statesman bone in his body or be a little presidential, I think was an encouraging point to me.
Well, and he's fighting with the principles too. If you remember, you look at these things and you look at many of the things that Trump does, he does so much, and we break it down every week.
Absolutely.
This was good, this was not
Impossible.
good. But what he showed us without saying was how great the country was. And bringing those person after person in to show courage and
Yes.
people acting selflessly. And again, just compare the Democrats. This week, we've got the Trans Bill of Rights is back. It's
Yes.
in Congress because so many states have passed laws. Texas passed them. We were the first to pass them. Remember what a big hoopla it was in 2015 when Lieutenant Governor Patrick proposed a bathroom bill which would require that women be able to have a private bathroom that men couldn't go into.
It was national news.
It was national news.
So revolutionary.
27 states now have those laws, and in Congress they have, the Democrats have put forth a piece of legislation that would roll all of that back. So I'm making them a big loser.
There were two speeches of note that have taken place lately. One is the State of the Union, and we could have some more we could probably talk about that the entire time.
Yes.
But just a few days ago, down at the Munich Security Conference,
Oh, yes.
Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, gave a measured speech. It was not nasty. It was talking about saving civilization. He said, we want allies that are proud of their culture. he said, we are defending a great civilization. And like J.D. Vance a year before, he called for Europe to be strong. The difference was in his tone. When he was done, the Europeans were throwing their arms around him, shaking his hand.
Analysts are saying it's one of the greatest they've heard in a long time.
It was an amazing speech, and I think if Marco Rubio decides that he wants the nomination, that lifted his stock in that nomination, which everybody thinks will be J.D. Vance. It could be a Rubio-Vance ticket or a Vance-Rubio ticket. We'll see. It's probably going to be one of those guys. But Rubio was amazing.
Since you mentioned J.D. Vance, Sherry, let me jump in here. I think J.D. Vance could potentially be a big winner from the State of the Union. He was named the anti-fraud czar or the anti-task force person. Just think of what's coming at us. We think just tangentially or quickly Minnesota. I'm going to mention here in a minute the federal authorities in LA raided the LA ISD superintendent's office a couple days ago, are looking into what he's doing. They've already put people away in Minnesota, but Department of Education has gone to Minnesota and other states. Department of Labor has gone to other states. All these things are now going to be under his purview, and I was going to say I guarantee you, I don't know about that, but I'm thinking this could be front and center all year long with the election. They're going to dribble out issue after issue, fraud after fraud, billions of dollars of our taxpayer dollars. That's something that will get under people's skin, and I think if I were advising the Trump campaign, I'm thinking J.D. Vance and that issue is going to be big.
Sherry, do you have a loser?
No, I want to follow up on your Munich speech just for a little piece of historical perspective. You know, we lost, the world lost Jesse Jackson, and there's a lot to say about him. I think he's the person that gave us the Rainbow Coalition and corporate intimidation and political identity.
Shakedown, perhaps?
The shakedown, not to speak ill of the dead, but the perspective of Marco Rubio in Munich about a war against Western civilization. It's important to remember that one of the first things that Jackson did was march with his push group at Stanford to demand that they stop teaching in support of Western Civ. And that's when the idea first came in that the teaching of Western civilization was based on racism. So this is the full circle. I think we have danced around that for the last 30 years as trying to come back from that. The fact that Marco was so clear about that. You bet I got a loser. I guess I would count him, although like we said, we don't want to speak ill of the dead. What do we think about Ilhan Omar just continuing to scream through that whole speech?
Great question.
I know
Let me find my section here on Ilhan Omar. Yes, she is now charging that the Secret Service or whoever polices the State of the Union dragged her friend out and roughed her up and sent her to the hospital. So I don't know if there's any truth to that, but my question about Ilhan Omar is very simple. Why is this woman in the Congress of the United States? Why is she in America? How does she commit fraud, marry her own brother, and still get to serve in our Congress? It's beyond ridiculous.
Did you see Tommy Tuberville, senator from Alabama, was on a viral video talking about how she's not even a citizen, is what he said. How do we have people like this in Congress? Just beyond. I think that's a great point. And what I think about her, Sherry, is whether it's Chuck Schumer, it was visible. Hakeem Jeffries didn't say much this week, but Ilhan Omar was in there because of her antics. And what about the lady next to her?
Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib, I wrote that down. She was wearing an F-ICE button. And Nancy Pelosi, who was there and didn't tear anything up, as far as I could tell, but was wearing I like to do it the way that Fievel did in An American Tale. We wease the files.
Well,
I think Sherry, Ilhan Omar, what I think she's going to be looked at. she's got to be at the top of J.D. Vance's and some prosecutors' list.
I know, that's
for the
going to
money
be
from.
fun. Well, here in Texas, well, actually not Texas, up on the northern border, Charlie Crockett didn't have a good week.
Oh, I saw that.
The
singer.
The singer, I mean, he's
You
been...
know who Charlie Crockett is?
Yes.
Good for you.
Was he the guy in the giraffe suit? I'm
Charlie...
not sure. Or was he one of the frogs?
He was already in trouble because he's a country and western singer, and he's been very critical of Trump. But of course you can do that. But then when he tried to go, he was going to do some shows up in Canada, and they wouldn't let him cross the border because of his drug conviction. So now
got a
he's like
felony.
stuck
Oh
in
my
America.
God, I know who you're talking about. He did the Jamestown Ferry song. Yeah, absolutely.
We
I know who
have
you're talking
we
about.
have some more Texas losers. I hesitate to bring this up, but Tony Gonzalez did not have a good week, congressman from San Antonio, and gave us, taking a little bit of liberty here, I think maybe the quote of the week on that comes from Connie Burton, who's the publisher of The Texan, who says, wait, so adultery's bad now? I can't keep up.
Well, he has been
exactly.
called to step down by Thomas Massey, Lauren Boebert, Anna Paulina Luna, and Nancy Mace. He's representing Texas all the way from El Paso over to San Antonio.
Brandon Gill, a Texas
I give
congressman.
him 10 days at the most.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, you
He's
kind of
toast.
you kind of watched
In the
it.
election or?
Step down.
Do you really?
Well,
But Lynn, it's only alleged.
The lady he had
He said, she said.
she's dead, so she's not
The
saying
husband.
anything. She set herself on fire based on this, and that's a little hard for anybody
It's
to
a terrible
overcome.
story. Well, what about, did you guys see Marco Velas?
No.
You don't know who Marco Velas is?
No.
He's one of the Democrat candidates for lieutenant governor. He's running against Vicki Goodwin. Now, the Houston Chronicle uncovered this. They interviewed both Vicki Goodman and Marco Velas, and Velas has been kind of pulling in money, like he got $400,000, then he got another couple $100,000. He's a steel worker. Similar to the model that we saw in Senate District 9, where the union member took that house, took that Senate seat. But they asked him, Vicki Goodman asked a question. She
Okay.
asked him who represented him in the state legislature.
Oh, my.
He didn't know. He didn't know who represented him in the House. He didn't know who represented him in the Senate. They gave him extra time. They gave him hints. He finally came up with Sylvia Garcia, who of course is in Congress. So the Houston Chronicle is urging their Democrat readers, which I would suggest is probably all their readers, to vote for Vicki Goodwin. So not a good week for Velas, but we'll see. He's got more money than she does. So.
Sherry, I'd jump in there talking about Texas if I can, because we've continued to see another week of Texans signing up for the student savings account, the scholarship account. You all worked so hard. Greg Abbott's been after it forever. I remember going back to old Kent Grusendorf back 20 years ago. Finally happened, and Texas is going to be the big whale in the nation now. This is not only going to affect Texas, but also because there's a couple stories this week. I noticed how unions are losing membership. There's a couple different corollaries to TPPF that are focusing on and pushing legislation to stop dues from being taken from taxpayer dollars and employees, and the mandatory almost because of lawsuits. And again, the LAISD, I think there's a new wind blowing, maybe one of the silver linings in COVID, that parents finally understood what's going on in the classroom. This is huge.
It's 32 years, and we're way over 100,000. I'm sorry I don't have the of students who have signed up.
Yeah.
And you know, here in Texas, we've done these reforms not just in K through 12, but House Bill 37, the Manhattan Institute announced today, Senate Bill 37, which we passed the last session, which re-empowers the boards of regents to run our universities.
Yep.
And disempowers the faculty senates.
Huge.
That's been set up by the Manhattan Institute, and that'll become a national model. So we are transforming education in Texas from K to graduate school, and we're the people to watch on that. So
We talked about that this morning, the DEI movement. I mean, it's one thing for the environmental machine to have evaporated essentially and disappeared in 1 year of Donald Trump. But this DEI stuff is sweeping universities across the nation. Those are entrenched bureaucracies, and, they indoctrinate our kids. That will
I
change
kind
the
of
future.
have enjoyed a little bit of the DEI movement. You mean the don't elect idiots
I'll go with that, sure.
movement?
Yeah.
I had a couple of losers. I have Gavin Newsom. Newsom goes to Atlanta.
yes.
He's in a meeting with Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, who is black, and he says, I'm just as dumb as you are.
Can't believe
He
it.
says, I didn't make anything on my SAT, and I can't read because I'm dyslexic. And then the next day, a reporter says, do you happen to have a doctor's report on this dyslexia? And he said, F you.
His press secretary did.
It was his press secretary.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cardle.
And let me add there, Lynn, I think we all should anticipate Gavin Newsom's in his future ambitious campaigns for higher office. Just like Joe Biden used the stuttering excuse, we're going to hear Gavin Newsom use the dyslexia for any number of excuses when he steps in anything.
Well, it could be, but I don't think he's going to outdo. They have some great candidates on the Democratic Party
Oh,
for
yes.
the ticket.
Are you going to mention
They've got
Buttigieg?
Pete Buttigieg.
Yes.
And they've got that picture of him with the twins or the quads or whatever is really going to intimidate Putin. They also have Kamala Harris, who is back today. She was back criticizing the speech and talking about all the things that are bad in America that she and Joe never did anything about.
Well, now, should we predict, I mean, it's hard for us to talk about Republican politics because we tend to be on that side, but you guys, what are you thinking? Tallarico or Jasmine Crockett? And answer me this with your question. Are the Democrats getting religion? Because this seems to be about religion. She goes to church, he goes to church, so this is like kind of a big deal.
Great point.
Well, he's dangerous. He makes the Bible into an LGBTQ handbook. I don't know how that's possible. Jasmine Crockett is leading him right now in the latest polls, 56% to 44. Now that's because CBS's nutcase, Stephen Colbert, came out and made Tallarico famous, but that is not showing up in this survey. It was taken before that happened. So we'll see. Given the two, I'll take Jasmine Crockett. If the Democrats were to win the Senate, I'd take Jasmine Crockett any day. She pretends to be a nut, and he really is.
Well,
What do you think, Sherry? I mean, that's-
I've been thinking about this a lot because, you read every day. You guys live in Austin, and we read about what's called the Bible-infused curriculum. And usually they blame us for this Bible-infused curriculum, which, as nearly as I can tell, it's 10 references to religion, things like the Sermon on the Mount and the Ten Commandments. 10 references in 12 years.
That's a problem.
So it's not like you're going to be hit with it every day. But we've got that going on. We've got schools across the state that are opting out of the prayer. The students have the option to do take a moment of prayer.
They are.
And I love they got on the record, San Antonio ISD, the teachers got together and they said, they really considered it seriously. They said, well, this could be a good for the kids, a moment of reflection, might be good for their mental health, might be good for them to settle, just kind of settle down, might strengthen their religious faith. That's always a good thing. So those were the pros. The cons were we might get sued, so they decided not to do it.
That is exactly right. It's the attorneys win.
Exactly. So
And
that.
who do they get sued by, though, Sherry? The ACLU, the left, all the squeaky wheels that Americans, I think, by and large, are repelling from.
Right.
That we see with their national not being able to define a man and a woman.
I'll talk about the elephant in the room because we've got to at some point, and I have winners and losers in this particular elephant. The winners so far are Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, because they haven't had to resign or anything. But the Epstein files, the man known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former Prince Andrew, was arrested. Not for the sex with underage girls, but for leaking trade secrets to Jeffrey Epstein. Same thing with Peter Mandelson, former UK ambassador to the United States, who is out on bail right now. The latest casualty here in our country is Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, who's a professor at Harvard, stepped down from Harvard for his relationship to the Epstein files, and we don't know what's still to come.
Well, you know, at this point on the radio, Lynn would usually tell me that we've got to wind down, and I would usually point out that the University of Houston's men's basketball team's ranked number 4 in the country, and Texas Tech is ranked number 16.
Yes.
Trying to include that. But what we're going to do tonight, because we have a special treat, is to invite Chuck DeVore to join us on the stage. Chuck's a big star on
Come on
Fox.
up, Chuck.
I can never remember his title. He's vice president of about everything.
The Honorable Chuck DeVore,
So
often on the radio with
Chuck
us.
is in the room. I also want to say, while Chuck is coming up, that our CEO, Greg Sindelar, is in the house. If you all didn't meet him, you should get to meet him, because
Greg was in Washington for the State of the Union and other business the other day that will get his perspective.
Let me introduce Chuck by saying that I made the mistake one time on the air of asking Chuck if he knew anything about Panama.
He fills in for us when we go on vacation.
And Chuck said, well, I started a civil war there one time.
That's classified information.
I'm sorry, so I take all that back. You didn't hear that. Chuck, winners and losers, what do you think?
Well, and I want to remind you, we didn't get to El Mencho, so we need to talk about that.
Oh, yes, we did.
I don't think El Mencho was a winner.
Oh, the drug cartel guy, yes.
So, winners. Certainly the U.S. military, when you have the
Yes.
president awarding the Medal of Honor to 2 amazing warriors, to Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric Slover, the helicopter pilot from the Night Stalkers, who was grievously wounded while he was landing a CH-47. That's the 2-prop helicopter, carries about 45 people. I've been in it many times. I usually fall asleep immediately when I get in a helicopter because I'm not flying it, of course. I'm the human cargo. Yeah. As he was being hit by the machine gun fire, he actually slewed the helicopter around so that the gentleman operating the guns on the helicopter could, as we say, cancel the birthdays of the people who were shooting at the helicopter. And then as he landed and was ready to pass out and the blood was sloshing back to the back of the helicopter, he says to his co-pilot, you know, you have control now of the helicopter. So you could see when he was standing up and had the walker, he was in pain.
Yes.
And then, of course, Royce Williams gets a Medal of Honor. He's 100 years old.
Yes.
And he fought in this amazing dogfight with 7 MiGs over MiG Alley in Korea during the Korean conflict in 1952. And because the pilots he was engaging were actually Soviet pilots, the engagement remained classified. Even though he was wounded during the dogfight, his aircraft had hundreds of bullet holes in it. He shot down 4 of the 7 MiGs in this long-running battle, only left when he ran out of ammo and was low on fuel. But they couldn't say anything about it because the fear was if you said anything about it, you might start a world war with a nuclear-armed Soviet Union. So the whole thing had been classified for, what, 70 years? It's just amazing when you think about it. And so finally they awarded him the honor. And if you look at the recruiting now with the U.S. military, all the branches are more than oversubscribed.
Yep.
The U.S. military is back, baby. And I think we saw that during the State of the Union.
They're back and they're in the Middle East, Chuck. Talk about the buildup there.
Well,
something
that leads to my loser.
Okay.
So are you anticipating? You didn't see my notes, did you?
I have not.
Well, I don't have notes. They're up here. So,
But I'm telling you, I'm watching
so that
it
means
like
you're reading
a
my
hawk.
mind.
Our notes up there too. But go.
I'm watching it like a hawk because you don't park that much equipment
No, you don't.
without intent.
No. So the loser, of course, are the mullahs of Iran. So that's my loser for the week, because if they haven't lost by tonight, they're about ready to lose everything pretty soon, I think.
That soon.
Yeah.
And regime change or?
Well, that's up to the Iranian people. So, you know, the regime is trying to keep power. They've already slaughtered over 30,000 of their people. They've brought in militia from other countries. So they have Iraqi militia, they have Lebanese militia. and they're less restrained in killing Iranians, right? Because those people are Arabs, and they're killing Persians, so they don't like Persians anyway.
And I heard this morning we've got significant aircraft now based out of Israel.
Well as the United Arab Emirates and other unnamed Arab countries.
Are we working with Israel?
Probably more so because the British didn't allow us to use their air bases in Cyprus or in Diego Garcia. So I think the British need to be stripped from Five Eyes. So
I neglected earlier to welcome people who are listening to us online or watching us online. We are being streamed all over the world, as they say. I would like to talk about another Muslim, not the Ayatollah, who is also on my list. It said he may soon be out of a job, it says here. And that's Zoran Mamdani, who has decided that if he can't soak the rich, because they're moving to Florida and Texas, or at least to New Jersey, if he can't soak the rich, he's going to put a big property tax on the middle class, because New York City has a $5.4 billion projected shortfall. Loser?
well, certainly the people of New York will be, and the big winner, of course, will be Dallas with the Texas Stock Exchange, right?
Yes.
So talk about just in the nick of time planning. If you don't like it in New York, you can get the heck out and you can work your financial deals in Dallas.
And he's raiding the retirement funds of the city employees, no less.
It's going to be really interesting. He also had quite an exercise this week with the snow shoveling.
No, absolutely.
And I read a number of stories of people who you had to, it's not just that you needed a photo ID to shovel snow, which as President Trump pointed out was rich, that they were requiring a photo ID. You had to go and get passport photos, you know the little photos? You had to get 2 little photos and take it to the Department of Public Works so that they could create your ID. So for people who needed that, they were paying $30 an hour, and they of course had to wait several days while the snow was melting. And these were mostly people who believed in Mamdani. So
Well, Sherry, you know those contracts to buy those snow shovels. I'm sure that the sole source bid for the $500 snow shovels, you want those back.
Right.
You can't just hand them out to people.
And asking for the papers, of course, the point being that they, in California, New York, Maine, I think it's 12 states that don't require any form of ID to vote. But yet here, and did you notice how he parsed it? I think we played it this morning where he said we're only adhering to federal law, as if it's not his fault, as if the law had tied his hands, whereas there was no reason to have similar type restrictions. It was subtly, and as you talked about Tallarico, these guys are smooth and they're subtle and they're telling you something that you don't realize you're hearing. That was an absolute fiasco, though, when you're talking about papers to shovel snow.
Well, and you know, we don't just want to be in the echo chamber here. So what is happening? You've seen Derek Ryan's reports, we've seen these reports. More Democrats are voting in primaries than Republicans. Do we think that's just because they care about Tallarico and Jasmine? Is there an enthusiasm gap? Are those of us on the right tired of winning? What's happening there? What do you see happening there?
Chuck?
Well, I mean, my thought on this is that the economy is in a very different place now than where it will be in October.
Absolutely.
A lot of the provisions of the Big Beautiful Bill didn't really hit until people, for example, started to file their income tax returns, and they end up getting these very large refunds compared to what they anticipated. And so what you're beginning to see is significant shifts in the economy. And the problem for the average person is you don't really see that until a few months after some of these things are hitting at the macroeconomic level. We already know that real wages are up. They were down under Biden because of Bidenflation. They're now up. I'm expecting that they're going to be up continuously between now and voting in November. And so as I look at it, there's 2 potential paths to go down from a history or a past that all of us will reluctantly admit to to remembering firsthand. And that's the 1982 and 1984 election cycles.
I don't remember that.
And-
You remember that?
Thank you very much. So in 82, we had a double dip recession as Reagan and Volcker worked the inflation, the stagflation from the Carter era out of the economy.
Yep.
And so the economy was doing very poorly, and the Republicans suffered mightily in the midterms in 1982. A lot of people wrote Reagan off because of that. In
True.
fact, there were some tax increases
Yep.
pushed through by Bob Dole
Yep.
that Reagan very reluctantly signed into law. And the other problem was the tax cuts in 81 were phased in over 3 years. That was a big mistake, but that was the best they could do. So then what happens when they all write Reagan's obituary, they think he's going to be done? What happens in 1984? You have a 49 state sweep.
Yep.
And so
Walter Mondale said, "I will raise your taxes."
Right.
He won't.
And so what I think what we're going to see is right now everybody thinks this is a 1982 situation because the economy is still a bit wobbly in people's minds from the recovery from the Biden era inflationary period. And I think we're going to be going into, as Trump says, the golden age. We're going to see this amazing, strong and sustained recovery. And I think that the average voter is going to feel it
Yes.
in their pocketbook come early voting in October.
Because Wade, there's two parts to that equation. One is the expenses at the grocery store that we hear so much about. The other is the income. The incomes are going up. Real wage growth is going up. Jobs, unemployment claims came out this morning.
Well, here's another thing that people aren't paying much attention to. This last year, you had the first real decline in the population of the U.S. since the Great Depression. The vast majority of that decline were people who were being deported or self-deported.
Yep.
And how does that affect the employment picture? Well, for the first time in several years, you saw a huge growth in native-born employment
Yes.
and a huge corresponding dip in foreign-born employment.
Which we've all complained they were doing in the first place, right? Sherry, I want to get to what you're talking about there with the Democrat versus Republican, or just briefly comment, because there's reason for concern after the Fort Worth special election where a state Senate seat went from Republican to Democrat.
And Fort Worth is our, Tarrant County has been a red county.
Exactly,
Very
the
red
largest
county.
red county in America is
Right,
what it
yeah.
is. And what you're talking about is, you and I read those same numbers from Derek Ryan. 29% of the election of the voters from last time have so far voted in the 8 days so far. And if you project that, I think he said it's going to show 2.5 million Democrats and 2.4 million Republicans. I keep going back, though, to 4 years ago, and frankly, I had to ask myself the question. Greg Abbott ran 4 years ago. Who did he run against, Lynn? Beto the Mosquito. I couldn't remember that. That's one of Lynn's favorite phrases.
Valerico is Beto 2.0.
And then Beto was going to win. It was a national phenomenon. All the money came in. It was talked about like the new coming. We have heard for 38 years about the Democrats winning an election. I'm not saying that these numbers couldn't be different and closer, but Greg Abbott wins by 900,000 votes. Last time Dan Patrick won by 900,000 votes. Almost numerically, I think that's impossible to overcome, even with a little juice or an excitement by the candidates, but yet still the Democrats, if you're looking at, and then there's the question, are the early voters of today the election day voters of the last cycle or
Well,
vice versa?
I want to ask Chuck something about that.
Well, let me just say this one. Let me just throw in this one statistic coming off of Derek Ryan's stuff that I think is interesting because it harkens back to what we were talking about higher education, which is, I always say, is the Wuhan wet lab of all things bad in America. So when you look at that Democrat vote, it's 57% female.
Oh, really?
So these are the same people that organized the protests. These are the same women that organized the protests in support of Hamas, the same people that organized the anti-ICE protests. On the Republican side, only 46% of the turnout is female. Men, the majority of men are voting, which is not great because there's more women than men just generally in the world. But I just wanted to put in that statistic, which to me it's like, we know who these people are. We've seen them on the street.
Well, we're talking about what's energizing the Democrats and the left. I had a leftover winner
Go for
from
it.
my winners list, which was Tom Homan. Tom goes to Minnesota, de-escalates the whole situation there, and did a great job. But I want to ask Chuck, is the ICE situation, the perception that they're being mean and cruel and they're going out and taking mothers who are nursing their children away and throwing them in a paddy wagon and taking them off to Alligator Alcatraz or wherever they're going, is that what's energized the Democrats?
Well, I certainly think that you would have had a laundry list of things that they find to get outraged about. The quote-unquote genocide in Gaza, the upcoming bombing of Iran, the snagging of Maduro in Venezuela. Heck, the men's hockey team made them mad. You know, I'm not sure that ICE by itself is going to be the determinant, especially now that you see kind of the disengaging from a city that had girded itself for war in kind of this nullificationist effort to nullify the U.S. Constitution and the law, the rule of law of the federal government. So, you know, if you end up focusing on those same resources in towns that want the help, or as Tom Homan did, coordinate so that you actually can pick people up who are here illegally and have been convicted of crimes and are being released from jail or prison, you know, then you know, it's going to take a while to deport the some 15 to 20 million people that came in under Biden.
Sherry, I want to refer to the women comment, and Lynn, jump on your winners and losers. One of the winners and losers, and it goes to the Hispanic question. Who's coming to Texas tomorrow and visiting Corpus Christi? But one president, Donald Trump. We're going to be visiting tomorrow morning with Caroline Leavitt's assistant, the special assistant to the president, on the air about what Trump's doing here, why he's here, what the response to the State of the Union is. Then on Monday, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is in Austin right now having a MAHA rally. I'm going to visit with him this afternoon. Lynn's going to be back at home in Temple, as he's wont to do on weekends, but we'll air that on Monday.
I was going to go home and eat a cow in his honor.
Yes, so you had Whataburger.
With whole milk.
Oh, there's another one, whole milk this week. But Donald Trump coming to Texas and Robert F. Kennedy being here, I think is interesting for the Hispanic perspective, and I hadn't thought about the female, because mothers are concerned about the health and the dietary changes that are being made right now.
Can I talk about one of my favorite people for just a moment?
Oh, please do.
He's sitting to my right, Jim Cardle.
Oh.
Jim comes in the morning,
Oh, gosh.
late, but he gets there. And the
that's
first thing
true.
he does is he goes to the break room and he makes this big pot of coffee, which
Oh,
I
yes.
think is probably okay.
Extra
but then
strong.
every other time he takes a drink, it's of some carbonated beverage. And I said, your stomach has got to just wonder what the hell is going on, because it's hot, cold all morning. So I took to the practice of reading the ingredients labels to him during the commercial break.
You did, great point.
And I said, Jim, do you know how much sodium you're taking in this thing? You know how much dye you're getting in this food dye?
Mm-hmm.
This is what my hope was for Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yes.
And I'm going to just say it the way I say it on the air. I want to get that crap out of the stuff I eat.
You haven't had salt in years? You don't?
No, I don't salt or use sugar at all, but
Yep.
just going to a restaurant, you get more than enough.
Broccoli and spinach?
Lots
or
of broccoli, lots of spinach.
The health thing, I think,
I
is
fight
a
to the
hidden
finish.
issue.
Well, okay. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, who's running against Greg Abbott this year? It's Julie Johnson, right? So somebody. But
Congresswoman.
Congresswoman somehow. Listen,
I don't know.
do you all have any nominations for winners and losers?
Yes.
You've been listening to us. We'd love to hear.
Stephen in Round Rock, you're on.
I think affordability.
Hold on a second.
Okay, we've got our guys with the mics, and I did not warn them at all. Thank you, Clint.
Stephen, one of our regular participants, thank you for
The
joining us.
first caller to the Cardle and Woolley show.
Yes.
It was my idea. I talked Casey into it.
Ah,
So I think affordability was a big winner from Trump's speech when he said that he has this executive order that's going to thwart equity capital
oh,
and
yes.
major foreign firms like Blackstone and BlackRock
the
from
housing
buying
front.
up all of the single-family housing.
Great point.
What I'm interested in is that executive order going to force those large corporations to divest. And if that goes into effect, that's going to flood the market and provide for affordable housing where they've got a stranglehold over the supply right now.
Unless you're a seller and your prices are going down. Well, no,
No, I'm
I mean,
saying-
it will affect all the housing.
I'm saying that if Blackstone and BlackRock have already bought up all these housing,
You know, that's a good question.
and they're forced to put it on the market, that's going to make housing available. When the supply goes up, the cost will go down.
Mm-hmm.
That'll go a long ways to affordability.
Well,
So
all
that's-
the people who are being deported lived in houses or apartments, and those are coming available.
Did we have another nomination over here?
That housing question is really interesting because the affordability, and I think Trump was to be commended. It was a word that immediately was like wildfire everywhere. And it's part of the narrative, part of the messaging. And yet we know that 20% of our dollar went away under Joe Biden. It's inflation. It's been sideways since then, but he's been pinned with it. It was pretty phenomenal. Yes, sir.
My name is Dane, and I would like to nominate James Tallarico as a loser this week. If you look at the early voting data, both by county and by precinct, the Crockett strongholds have been on overdrive, while
Really?
the Tallarico strongholds have just kind of been meh, and it's kind of to the point now where Crockett, based on the information available from the Secretary of State, has such a lead that Tallarico at this point is just kind of cooked.
You know,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wrote down what we talked about earlier about how he's at 56%, or she is, and he's at 44% without taking into effect the Stephen Colbert situation. But if you look over at the other side, that's interesting too. This is the new UT poll that just came out. Paxton at 36%, Cornyn just 2 behind at 34%. Wesley Hunt is at 26%. We're getting cringeworthy negative ads out of this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the spending has topped $110 million already, 75 million of that coming from some of the third-party groups.
Yes,
have you all seen the new Cornyn ad?
yes, yeah.
I would say that has to be a winner in my book. I mean, granted, it starts a 60-second spot. It comes out with some negatives against Paxton at the beginning. Then he talks about being endorsed by the Border Patrol, how he helped get $11 billion to repay Texas's expenses, and lays out what he's going to do. But the damage or the pointed education aspect of it up front, I thought was just phenomenal. Be on the
Do you
lookout.
have a general thought on the election? I think it's going to be an interesting election for Republicans. We're getting a new attorney general, new comptroller, and that's something
Well,
we
what's
haven't had in a
interesting to
while.
me, how Ken Paxton has not spent any money.
Yeah.
John Cornyn's been on for 6 months. He was defining Paxton early on, the old political axiom that allegation unresponded to is one accepted.
Yeah.
He's not raising all that much money.
You have a general thought about elections? You know, we don't talk about elections here.
Yes,
Well, I think an unambiguous winner would be the consultants for said campaign.
absolutely.
Radio and television stations are
Yeah,
doing quite well.
Absolutely, and I have another similar winner, which would be the consultants for Kamala Harris.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's getting ready to run again.
She's
That's also a great gift to American comedians.
She's number one in the polls. She's from your old home state. Yeah. She and Gavin are fighting it out. Nobody else is even in it. Yeah. Nobody else is even in it. So when we look at what Chuck was saying about how the economy is going to shift a bit in October.
Well, I want to ask Chuck if by the way, Jim, we have Kamala Harris audio for tomorrow morning, which will bolster some of what we're saying here. But I'm just wondering if she can blame her record on Biden, and who's Gavin Newsom going to blame his record on?
That's a very good point.
Well, now Chuck is an expert on Gavin
The
Newsom.
land of fruit and nuts?
Chuck used to be
Well-
a state legislator in California.
You know, given Gavin Newsom's dyslexia, and
Yes.
combine that with his historical illiteracy, I think he'll blame Ronald Reagan.
But the
Very well
Democrats
could
are going to be divided. The Democrats are divided right now is something that does not get talked about enough. Have you all seen, or us political junkies will have seen people like Rui Teixeira and other Fetterman we quote, but the Democrat consultants are starting finally to advise their clients, don't talk about defunding police, don't talk about defunding ICE. You can talk about the killings, but
Right.
that is a big inner battle over there.
I would argue that they're not divided where it counts, which is with the rank and file voters. So yes,
Okay.
the donor class
Yes.
and a lot of the advisors who know better are very concerned about the direction of where the Democratic Party is going.
Okay.
But I don't think it can be helped right now. I think that they're in a situation where they have to be utterly dismantled, similar to what happened to McGovern in 1972, to be able to really come out and understand where they are.
We did not mention, talking about the Munich conference, AOC, who has been considered one of their luminaries,
yes.
was asked a very simple question, which I think with a little help from Jim Cardle, I could have answered. And the question was, what is your policy, or what do you think we should do if China invades Taiwan? And she said, for 30 full seconds.
Painful.
She had no idea. And then when she did state the United States position, which is ambiguity, not, well, we might help, we might send military, but we might not. I mean, that's our official position. She misstated that. So I think maybe she's out.
But see, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat,
Well, that's true too.
because the average Democrat voter doesn't
Great
care
point.
about, they don't even know where Taiwan is.
Great
You know,
point.
they're not like me. I wrote a book about China invading Taiwan 26 years ago. It's banned in mainland China.
By
And
the way,
it's
I know
available
more
to
about the
online.
Revolutionary War and the first supervillain in the United States. It wasn't Lex Luthor, it was Aaron Burr.
How do you know
Because
that?
Chuck wrote a novel about it, and I read it only because I know Chuck, and I thought, I need to read this book. It's my duty. I was fascinated
What's
by
the
it.
name of that book, Chuck?
Crisis of the House Never United.
Crisis
All right,
of the
we got
House
another
Never
question
United.
over
I can absolutely
Do we
endorse
have
it.
one more
Couldn't put it
question
down.
before we descend into pushing Chuck's books?
Descend?
Pay me, Chuck.
Well, this group, TPPF, Cardle and Woolley, Sherry, you guys are winners in our book.
Oh, thank you.
Aw.
So we look for it even on Saturday and Sunday. We wish you'd bring it out. People are just eating it up. We're all telling our friends about it.
Thank you.
But here's my main question that there are two questions I want to bring up.
Speak into the microphone if you would.
First, I'll bring this one up first. And we have yet to know who is going to be the winner or loser for this. And here's what I'm going to try to explain.
Okay.
If we put prayer back in public schools, not the parochial schools, because that's allowed. If we get that prayer back into schools, do you know who's going to bring their prayer beads, their prayer rugs? They're 5 times a day. They're
Yes.
down on the ground.
The Muslims.
There's a lot of pressure for young people to go along with that. And I don't know what it is. My husband and I'm from Corpus, he's from San Antonio.
Okay.
I used to go up, we went to the same Sunday school together. We didn't know each other, but his mother taught that Sunday school. How is it that they have turned him into a Muslim? I have no idea. People are very easily pulled into that religion.
And we saw something the other day in the suburb of Dallas where they had a stand-up Islamic table not approved by the administration, where they were handing out Qurans and shawls for the women. Went unnoticed, but it got a bit of statewide news.
And the kids all would go along with it.
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure. And we need to wake up to this.
Well, let's
I think Governor Abbott is very awake
Yes.
to it and is watching it. He has outlawed Sharia everywhere. We're
Much to
looking
his
at it in
credit.
schools. And do you have thoughts on it, Chuck? I think you're not alone in understanding this threat.
We think that getting prayer into the public schools, not parochial schools, but public schools, we want to warn you.
Well, for heaven's sakes.
Thank you for that.
We talked about it this morning. If you go back 100 years or two, what was the main textbook for the first schools in America but the Bible? Getting back with the pendulum swinging, my eternal optimist thought is we may not get there fast enough, but perhaps we've stopped the movement in the wrong direction.
Well, gentlemen, we've come to the end of our time. Do you have a final winner and loser shot you want to fire before we let these people go and find out where they can get Chuck's books?
Should I go? Let me go first, Lynn, and you wrap it up, because I'm going to throw in something here that has enthralled the nation also, and that is the Savannah Guthrie and the Guthrie tragedy over in Arizona. I'm not to this day sure and able to understand how much the FBI has been involved or not. The reward finally went up to $1 million the other day. It seems to me that the Pima County Sheriff is in over his head. I've heard some of our legal beagle friends say that type of thing, but it's been phenomenal then to learn that he actually had some history with the FBI previously, and the reason is because the FBI and ICE is under attack. I don't know if it'll ever get to that point of discussion, but that to me has just been a tragedy that may involve some politics when it's all said and done.
Well, my final thought, Jim just stole it from me, but
Oh, no.
I'll expand on it just a little bit. I know that some people think Savannah Guthrie is a TV star and that's why she's getting the attention, but it is an amazing mystery and it is a tragedy where it happens to anybody. News Nation has already started a new segment called Some Missing Person that they're bringing out that's not from the
wow.
Guthrie family. So this is having some good repercussions. I want to take it back a step and say that in a democracy or a republic such as we are, a representative democracy, we vote people in and we vote them out. And in the last few years, we have begun killing them. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Thank God the judge yesterday threw out that silly motion by the defense to throw out the prosecution team. We had an insurance executive murdered in cold blood in downtown New York.
Yep.
This may be a result of the rhetoric, but nobody makes those people do it. And just realize I can, and Chuck and Sherry and Jim and you guys can listen to a lot of negative talk and a lot of political arguing without going out and killing somebody. And I hope we can get back to that place in America.
You have a final thought?
Well, that's pretty sobering. It should bring to mind the fact that in the early 70s, we had a bombing campaign in America, something like 2,500 bombings in a year and a half.
The Weathermen?
Oh yeah, and other related groups. So I'll just go one last loser, which is the media, the left-wing media,
Absolutely.
that criticized the U.S. men's hockey team for coming to the State of the Union address, when completely forgetting the fact that Jimmy Carter invited the men's hockey team from the 1980 Miracle on Ice to the White House.
Sherry, do you have a final thought?
Well, in thinking about, as Chuck points out, the thing that hopefully we bring to winners and losers every week is just that feeling, because the media comes in and says this has never happened before. I've been in politics for 4 decades. Almost everything has happened before.
Yes.
And so we try to bring this together. We here at the Texas Public Policy Foundation have positions on virtually every issue, from the border to water to family to education.
We didn't get to sports
And
too much. You tried.
So visit our website and get involved. Keep listening to Winners and Losers. We'll be on tomorrow at
8:30 sharp.
Thank you all for coming.
All right, I'll end it by saying that puts the plug in the jug for the Cardle and Woolley show with Sherry and Chuck and Jim. Be logical. Jimmy, be logical, or you're either an insider.
Or you're not. I'm Jim Cardle.
See you
Thank
on the
you,
radio in the
everybody, for
morning.
coming out.
Thank you. Thank you.